UFC 312, Dricus du Plessis defends the middleweight belt against Sean Strickland in what is the championship rematch. This is the Funkin' Flex MMA show. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. While you're here, drop a like on the thumbs up button below. Hit subscribe. I don't want y'all to miss any of these future preview and prediction shows that I have coming every Wednesday for every card this year, as well as my Friday betting breakdown shows. We're bouncing back from a 5-6 week last week. And while it is my worst card of the year, that's not what the most frustrating part is. It's that I switched three of my early picks on my preview and prediction show last week, and the official picks that I posted, all three of those that I switched were wrong. That being the Myra Buena Silva pick off of Jazz Davicius. Ziam, I switched to Mike Davis. And unfortunately, my guy, I went with Nurmagomedov instead of Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira, which was a good fight. He did get hurt at the end, but a dominant victory nonetheless. If I wouldn't have switched those three, it would have been a lot different of a week for me. Would have actually gone 8-3 on the card, which is what I did go, or what you went if you just followed the preview and prediction show that I put out Wednesday. I normally don't encourage to just tail blindly on the early picks, but it would have worked out for you last week. So, nonetheless, my best cards always come after the ones that I have that are the worst. So, I am very excited for UFC 312, even though it's not the most exciting card. I do really enjoy this from a betting perspective, and I think that we have a lot of angles to break down. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first fight of the night. Hyung Sung Park versus Tumen Dembarel. And for this one, guys, the pick's going to be a dog to start off the night with Tumen Dembarel. I think that he's just better on the feet than Hyung Sung Park. And not only do I see it just being a good value play from a betting perspective as almost nearly 2-1 underdog, but I do think that if he's able to stuff the takedowns, that he's better everywhere than Hyung Sung Park. And I do think that he has decent grappling, even if it does get to the ground. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to find a submission or a guillotine if Hyung Sung Park shoots in a takedown while he's hurt. Um, that being said, I think that the line is priced this way because Hyung Sung Park hasn't faced anybody really competitive, and Tumen Dembarel is coming off of the loss to Carlos Hernandez, where he was a pretty big underdog, and he performed better than a lot of people were expecting him to. So I'm going to have to pick him for the first fight of the night here. Give me Tumen Dembarel. On to the second fight of the night. We have a matchup between Quillen Salkild and Anshul Jubli. And do not be confused, guys. The pictures are just reversed on the screen. Salkild here is the ghost-looking guy on the right-hand side of the screen, and he will be the pick for this one. I don't like how we saw Anshul Jubli just give up against Mike Breeden, who was literally just toying with him in the third round. I think Jubli is a big cardio threat here, as he'll gas out to Quillen's just forward pressure. Well, I do think that the line here is a little bit wide. This is just the picks video, and I'm going to have to go with Salkild as the pick, even though it may be just too wide of a line to bet in this spot. Moving along, we have an interesting matchup here against Jonathan McKelliff versus Kevin Jousset. McKelliff making his UFC debut here off of the first round submission in Dana White's Contender Series, and Kevin Jousset here coming into his fourth fight after the home field loss to Brian Battle, where you think that I was going to lose to a French guy. And I think that McKelliff might be in a similar spot here. I was initially leaning towards Jousset when I first heard about this fight, but I think McKelliff's forward pressure and grappling is going to give Jousset some problems. Jousset, who does normally have a pretty good initial takedown defense, and if he is able to stuff the takedowns, he's going to sneak this victory out on the feet. He could knock him out or win points. But I do have a feeling that McKelliff's going to be able to really suffocate him with that forward pressure. And even though he may lose some moments on the feet, I do believe in his ability to eventually get it to the ground. And I think the grappling truly is going to be on another level. With Jousset training out of City Kickboxing, known for their takedown defense, not known for their get up game. So go ahead and give me an underdog pick in McKelliff here for the third fight of the night. Up next, Rong Zhu versus Cody Steele, making his debut off of the Dana White Contender Series knockout. And I think that Cody Steele here is the side. I do think that minus 200 is a little bit of a wide spread, considering that Rong Zhu has about 25 more professional fights than Cody Steele. That being said, I think Cody Steele is legit. He's got a lot of hype coming out of the jiu-jitsu community for his grappling, but we've seen from him in his MMA debut and MMA throughout his MMA run early in his career, he has power and he's not afraid to stand and trade. And I think that he's going to be able to give Rangju some problems wherever the fight is at here. I think this is going to be a Cody Steele coming out party, as I think he's going to be a really, really tough prospect here in the 155-pound weight class. On to the featured fight of the prelims, we have a matchup between Kobe Thickness against Alessandre Topuria. And this one is just a setup, in my opinion, for the announcement of the Volkanovski versus Topuria rematch. Those who do not know, Kobe Thickness, a city kickboxing protege of Alexander Volkanovski, and Alexandre Topuria is the older brother of Ilya Topuria. So they will be going against each other in the corners here. And I think that Thickness has a good chance here as a plus 300 underdog. He's undefeated in 7 fights in his MMA career. I know that Alexandre Topuria does have that Georgian strength, and he is a very good wrestler. But I think Thickness has some slick jujitsu and some quick hands on the feet. May be able to give some of that power from Alexandre Topuria a problem if he's able to just get his speed and movement going early. Then if Topuria takes him down, I don't think he's going to be able to hold him down. I think Thickness might be live to get a submission or to either get back to his feet and continue to piece him up. So it's an unpopular pick. It's not a very confident one, but I'm going to lean towards the Alexander Volkanovski coach. Even though I do think that Topuria may have the more dominant striking, and I'm fearful that he does win the rematch. I think that Volkanovski is going to be a phenomenal coach, as his IQ and fight is just off the charts. Volkanovski, a different sport player coming in and just dominating it based off of his intelligence. Not really a freak athlete, or he is a freak athlete, but not really dominant in any one area of fighting. Just very well-rounded skill set, and I think that has to do with his IQ. All of that to say that I think he can pass that on to Kobe Thickness and come in with a good game plan to beat the less experienced Taporia brother. Moving along, Wang Kong's gonna take on Bruno Brazil. Did not mean to have my accidental rhyme in there, but I'm gonna leave it um, just because I'm not that slick often. So a lot of people think Wang Kong was fraud checked in her last fight against Gabriela Fernandez, but I just didn't see it that way. I thought that she was looking really good in that fight from a technical striking standpoint. Maybe just a little bit too free to let her power fly, and that got her to get caught by the veteran Gabriela Fernandez. That being said, I think that she's the far more technical striker here, but a minus 500 line is just not something I'm interested in betting on. But when we're talking about the picks, it's got to be Wang Kong. I think Bruno Brazil is a nice veteran who is a tough gatekeeper for some people. But when she's fighting a technical striker like Wang Kong, who's quick and powerful, she's just not going to be able to get her grappling or her takedown game going, in my perspective. Maybe a sprinkle on plus 360 would be worth it because Wang Kong is off the KO loss. But I think that that's only going to make her come in here, more reserved and not looking for the KO right off the bat, but maybe just willing to piece her up and go to a 3 round decision up on the judges' scorecards. So, that being said, I really don't know what prop to bet or what angle to look at in this fight, but Wang Kong has to be the pick. Moving along, we have a matchup between Tom Nolan and Slavikaz Borshev. And for this one, it's a tough matchup to break down, not because of the skill set of these fighters, but because I have concerns of both of these guys' chins and how many shots they're willing to take or able to take, or rather the kind of shots that they're able to take. As Borshev's been dropped in several fights, Tom Nolan off the knockout from Nicholas Moda. Um, I'm gonna have to leave Borslev in this one just because he's never been finished, and although there is question marks around his chin, I think that it's gonna hold up better than Tom Nolan. That being said, I think Tom Nolan's the more well-rounded fighter, so if he does decide to mix in his grappling skill set, maybe get some takedowns. We know that Borshev has definitely struggled in that area, but if this fight stays on the feet, which I do think that it will, I'm gonna have to go with Slavikaz Borshev as the pick here in this one, as I think he's got the more well-rounded skill set, and I think that he's going to be the better fighter as this goes on later into the rounds. On to the featured fight of the prelims. We have a matchup between Jack Jenkins and Gabriel Santos. And I hate picking against all these Australian fighters in the Australia card, but I am going to have to go with Gabriel Santos to win this fight. I just think that even though Jack Jenkins has good boxing, I think that Gabriel Santos is what more well-rounded, and I think his hands are good enough to keep him in some of the exchanges that go down on the feet, to be able to have his moments on the feet, and then also be able to shine whenever it gets to the ground and potentially even get a submission here. I can kind of just see it happening. Jack Jenkins gives up his back, and Gabriel Santos with the rear naked choke. Little insight to what I'm looking at for the betting breakdown show, but nonetheless, that's going to be the pick for the card as well here. Gabriel Santos. Kicking off the main card, we have a matchup between Jake Matthews and Francisco Prado. And while I really badly want to pick Jake Matthews as the more well-rounded uh, veteran fighter here, more experienced fighter, I'm gonna have to go with the young Francisco Prado to get it done here. I do think that his striking skill set is gonna be more of a point style fight. And while I do think this fight has a tendency to be a finish, I think that there's a chance that it goes to a decision. As Jake Matthews is going to come in here with a good game plan, even though he has been chinned a few times. Um, I think that this is going to go to the decisions, to the judges, and I like Prado here with this quickness and speed to outvolume Jake Matthews on the feet here, and then maybe even have some sneaky jujitsu if this fight does, for whatever reason, go to the ground later in the fight. I think the upside here is on Prado, even though he's less experienced. If there's going to be anyone that gets finished, I believe it's going to be Jake Matthews. So go ahead and give me Prado. I lean decision, but I could see a KO here as well. The underdog pick to kick off the main card. Jimmy Crute versus Rodolfo Bellato up next. And while I initially was leaning Rodolfo Bellato, in a search for Australian picks on this card, I actually did talk myself into picking Jimmy Crute. He will be the pick for this. I do think that he's going to come back very motivated in this spot, and I think that he's coming back with a lesson or two from his last couple of losses. He is the younger fighter by just a year, the shorter reach. But I think he's going to be able to close the distance, and Rodolfo Bellato is going to be able to, or is going to just be caught swinging. I think that Crute's head movement's good for 205 pounds. And I think that even though I'm not very high on Crute moving up in the rankings, I think he's going to be the more well-rounded skill set here to check the less experienced fighter in Rodolfo Bellato. On to the featured fight of the main card. We have Justin Tafa taking on Taliesin Teixeira, and another initial lean is going for the 7-inch height, 9-inch reach advantage. But believe it or not, I have faith that Justin Tafa is going to turn the tides here. It's going to be a straight experience check, as Taliesin Teixeira is just not ready for the UFC heavyweight division. They are looking for a star here, and in the heavyweight division, I'm kind of surprised they're matching him up this early on against Justin Tafa. I think Tafa is going to surprise a lot of people at home. Give me Justin Tafa here. They're going to be rooting for him like crazy to get this job done in Australia. He's fighting for his gatekeeping spot, because if he loses this, I don't know if how many more fights he has left in the UFC. But I do see a very motivated Justin Tafa coming into this spot. And for a heavyweight that has as much power as he does, which a lot of heavyweights do, his speed is really going to shine here. And I think it's going to be a David versus Goliath match. Tafa, the heavier fighter. I think that Teixeira is going to really have more bitten off than he can chew in this matchup. Give me Justin Tafa as the underdog pick. Wei Li versus Tatiana Suarez in our co-main event, the title fight, one of two title fights on the card. And I'm going to go Zhang Wei Li, even though everything in my body tells me that Tatiana Suarez is going to win this as the undefeated fighter. I just know that I can never pick against Zhang Wei Li after that Joanna Jacek fight. I was on the wrong side of that. And I just know that no matter what you do to Wei Li, you can't break her. Um, she submitted uh, her last fight, her opponent at the end of the first round, and Zhang Shunan, and she didn't get credit for it. I don't know how the no one saw that, even though all the commentators were calling it out. Her coaches were like rushing to get her off of the canvas. She just was got up and completely lost, but she was able to finish out the fight and did have some moments against Zhang Wei Li, which is why I think that Wei Li is coming in priced as an underdog here because Tatiana Suarez has just been winning so dominantly. But Zhang Wei Li is a different beast. And I think that while she may start to lose some moments on the feet, once her wrestling gets involved, I think it's going to be able to shut down that jiu-jitsu of Tatiana Suarez. And she may be able to dominate a lot of this fight and top control, open up some cuts with elbows. And I just think that Zhang Wei Li has more paths to victory here. A lot of people may disagree with me on that, but that's fine because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And Zhang Wei Li will be a pick and a bet this week in UFC 312. Main event time, Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland in the rematch. As bad as I want to pick the USA champion here and get Sean Strickland his belt back, I just don't think that he is going to come into this fight with any sort of improvements made. I think that he's going to know what Dricus is looking for, but I think that Dricus is the more improved fighter coming into this, and I think that you'll see it this Friday. Give me Dricus inside the distance for the pick. I'm not happy to say it, but he is the better grappler. And while Sean Strickland's takedown defense has been elite, Dricus is just getting better and better and putting more scalps on his belt. And if he was a hunter, he would be the one that everyone is hunting to be the top of the food chain. Um, that analogy sounded way cooler in my head. But nonetheless, Dricus du Plessis the pick and I think it's going to be by ground and pound. I know it's a specific pick, but I could see it going into the third or fourth round and Strickland just making a mistake, getting a gash open on his forehead, and just slipping the fight from there. Um, Dr. Stoppage is live here. Dricus du Plessis is going to do some really nasty damage here. I can just see it. And then he's going to probably fight Kamzat next. I think Kamzat's probably next in line, and they may be setting it up to announce that at 312 this weekend, too. Unless they do a title eliminator with Nasruddin Imavov, which I would not be against either after his performance against Izzy. Maybe Kamzat has to fight one more, and then Dricus fights the winner of that. I guess we'll find out this Saturday, see what kind of match this is. If Dricus does this with ease, I think they're going to throw him Kamzat next. Also, uh, I just don't know that the UFC loves Nasruddin. Um, but they are looking for a French superstar after Benoit Saint Denis got crushed. So who knows? All speculation here, but we will find out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe on your way out. I appreciate you guys again for tuning in. The betting breakdown show will be this Friday at 8:30, and much love to you guys. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys on Friday.